Thank you for that insight into micro-credentials from a UK perspective, Dr. Curnow. So our next briefing is on, sadly, a super hot topic, commercial academic contract cheating. And we welcome our speaker, Dr. Helen Gniel, Director, Higher Education Integrity Unit at TEQSA. Over to you, Dr. Gniel.
Thanks very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the 5th annual TEQSA conference. I've been given about 10 minutes to talk to you today about the work that the Higher Education Integrity Unit is doing to support institutions combat the threat posed by commercial academic cheating. Before I begin, I'd also just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that I'm meeting on and pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and also extend that respect and appreciation to any other Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander peoples that are with us today. So as we've heard from a range of speakers today, the last 18 months has thrown up unprecedented challenges for higher education institutions and students in Australia and also around the world. All of a sudden, most, if not all, courses and their assessment had to be moved online. And as all of us in the sector know, online education was already happening more in some courses than others and more in some institutions than others. But the COVID-19 pandemic and the stay-at-home orders made this pervasive, and it happened very quickly. One of the impacts of that was increasing concern about the proliferation of contract cheating services being offered to students and really being predated upon the students. Individual approaches via social media platforms, for example, but also, rising awareness of the ease of access to these services for students while they're in a digital world. So in this same time period, so in the middle of last year, the government announced that the Higher Education Integrity Unit would be established within TEQSA. And the aim of the unit, and the word integrity here, is broader than academic integrity. Really, any threat that is perceived to undermine the integrity of higher education falls under our banner. But of course, commercial academic cheating is a very real threat to the integrity of higher education. Even though most students we know do complete their award with integrity and do take great pride in the knowledge and skills that they're mastering to become professionals, students utilising these services has a disproportionate risk to the integrity and the reputation of our sector. Commercial cheating services have the possibility to undermine public trust in our institutions and to undermine public confidence in the professionals that they graduate. In addition to creating the Integrity Unit and funding TEQSA to develop this function, the government also passed a bill amending the TEQSA Act. So in September 2020, they amended the TEQSA Act to make it an offence to advertise or offer contract cheating services to students studying with an Australian higher education provider. So just a little bit more about the legislation. There's a few options open to TEQSA in using this legislation. So the first is seeking an injunction in the federal court to block access to a website if TEQSA can demonstrate that it is providing cheating services or advertising cheating services to students. You might be aware that in July of this year, we made our first application to the federal court to block access to a website called assignmenthelpforyou.com. And in October, we had a favourable outcome in the court, with the court granting that injunction requiring 51 carriage service providers or internet companies to block access, to disable access to that website, but also to the website assignmenthelpforyou.com, because TEQSA was able to demonstrate that these were substantially similar websites, just operating with different shop fronts, if you like. Importantly, students are not the target of this legislation. Students who use these services remain accountable to the policies and procedures of their institution. So it's great to have that win, but this isn't a problem that you can prosecute your way out of. We're very aware of the fact that it's a really difficult problem to solve, and it's going to need a coordinated effort by all stakeholders who have a responsibility here. And we're really, really keen on a partnership approach. We're incredibly grateful for all the great work that institutions have already done and continue to do in this space, and for the way they partner with us. So when we're organising our work in the Integrity Unit, we try to keep a few principles in mind. The first is to try and drive down both the supply and the demand side of this equation. Secondly, we try to find a balance between initiatives that focus on education versus those that focus on enforcement. And finally, leverage the power of that partnership model. So I'll take you on a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the things that we've got in train and the work we're doing. So importantly, that partnership model, we really see that as multi-pronged. So it's partnership with the institutions and with the peak bodies that represent those institutions, but also partnership with the students is very important, and partnership with our global colleagues in quality assurance. Contract cheating is very much a global problem, and this is really being increasingly recognised with more and more countries looking to introduce legislation similar to that we have in Australia, Ireland and New Zealand. This year, since the unit was established in January when I joined as the director, one of the things we focused on is sharing information. That's been via sector alerts. So for example, in April this year, we alerted the sector to the threat of malicious code insertions from bad actors seeking to redirect traffic from a provider website to a cheating website. So from a student's perspective, it looks as though they're in their provider, but it's actually a link taking them out to a contract cheating website. We also alerted the sector in April to online study hubs that were seeking to appoint campus representatives, so students to promote these services, and leveraging off the brand of institutions without actually having permission to do so. We're also keen to share data. One of the other amendments in the TEQSA Act increased our capacity to undertake research into the cheating companies and their business models and to share this data with the sector. In May this year, we shared a database of thousands of suspected instances of students accessing these services, both in Australia and around the world. And our aim in sharing that was really to try and move the conversation forward. The data demonstrated that there were assignments in there from all AQF levels, from all disciplines, from all types of providers. There's not one kind of student that cheats, and there's no discipline or course that's immune from this problem. It really is a shared responsibility of all of us. And in, I think, August this year, we also shared with the sector and with our international colleagues the database we've amassed of about 2,000 sites suspected of facilitating cheating. And that's another great example of partnership, because that site originally came to us from the sector. We have developed web traffic analytics capability in TEQSA now, which allows us to identify similar sites. So it will recommend to us other sites that we might not be aware of. So we've been able to build out that database, and it's also allowing us to triage our work. So we can see now which are the most popular sites and which ones we should consider for prosecution targets. The legislation does also allow for both civil and criminal penalties. And so we're in the process now of triaging some targets for prosecution next year. We also have shared alerts with the sector about emerging threats. So recently, some colleagues overseas alerted us that in their sector, they had seen instances of academics being approached by ghost grading firms, for lack of a better term. So that's now those same companies, we believe, but pivoting to offer to grade assignments for academics at a piece rate cheaper than what the academic is being paid for that work. We're also continuing to share best practice. TEQSA has been really active in this space for a number of years. There's a range of toolkits and resources on our website. This includes printable and PowerPoint resources that explain the laws that institutions can use to alert both academics and students to the fact that these services are not just distasteful, but are now illegal in Australia. We recently shared a new detection guide. This built upon the guide we already had about detecting commercial cheating, but it's focused on non-text assignments, symbol-dense kind of assignments that you might see in the mathematical disciplines, coding and engineering. And it's already been downloaded over 1,500 times since we released this last month. And again, this is another example of partnership. It was an Australian academic that we engaged as an expert to write this for us. So as I said, we really value that partnership with our sector and the generous sharing of knowledge that we have in Australia. As I mentioned, partnership with students is also really important. TEQSA launched an Understanding Academic Integrity Hub for students last year, and that includes information for students on how to recognise an approach from a contract cheating firm. As I said, they're becoming increasingly sophisticated in their approach. They know that students are online, they know that they're struggling, and they know that it's not a matter of a student now walking across campus to the academic support. So they're getting quite sophisticated in the way they market their services or the approach to student that makes it look quite genuine. So there's tips in there for students about how to recognise that and where to seek, support, and reminding them that the institution institution's the best place to go. There's also links in there to help students report to us when they see these approaches. That includes on social media. We do have capability now in the team that we report on social media when we see sites. So again, we just really value that partnership. We've had a couple of hundred reports from students and academics when they've seen sites or advertisements that they believe contravene our laws. They all go into our database and will get shared back with the sector, and they allow us again to triage our work and work out the best targets for prosecution. So I guess, I just would like to leave the audience with a few questions, I guess, and thinking about next steps. So we will continue to do everything we can. As I said, it's great to have the legislation. It's not a silver bullet, but we certainly will continue to leverage the legislation as much as we can to try and make it harder for these services to target students studying with an Australian provider. And for providers, I just really encourage you to continue to make sure that the advice that you give students and your policies and procedures are contemporary and recognise the rapidly changing business models of these services. It can be a bit tiring and exhausting, I know, to keep up, but when institutions aren't clear on where they stand on issues, and file sharing would be a good example, it's pretty difficult for students to know whether what they're doing is wrong if there's not a clear statement from their provider. And I think it's about keeping that conversation going so that that positive culture of integrity is really maintained throughout their degree. So we don't just have a conversation with the student once in their first unit. It's actually an ongoing conversation to help build that pride in the institution, the pride in the knowledge that they're mastering, and that positive culture of integrity. And for the students here, and it's so fantastic to see that we've got 100 students on the call today, I think for you as well, to just really drive forward those conversations with your peers. It's an amazing time of your life, and it's amazing that you're going to come out as, incredibly qualified people who have really specialist knowledge, and that's really an achievement. So it's been a really hard 18 months for everybody. We really hope that at the Integrity Unit, we're able to continue this partnership and work with the sector to combat threats to the integrity of our system. Thanks very much.